Connecticut is one of the wealthiest enclaves in the country, just a stone's throw from New York City. It also touts one of the lowest crime rates in the U.S., the dream place to raise a family. That is, until this posh community gets turned upside down when a beloved mom of five, Jennifer Dulos, disappears one morning without a trace.
The first thing I did, I left her a voicemail and I said, I love you and please call me. And I never heard back.
It's a disturbing and mysterious crime that gains media attention across the country and has her family, friends, and the town asking, what happened to Jennifer?
There's just something that is so completely unacceptable about the idea that somebody would just disappear off the face of the planet.
And with every twist and turn, the world stands by in shock at the evolving madness and outrageous injustices of this case. Even though everyone believes Jennifer's husband, Fotis Dulos, was behind her death, and there's a massive amount of physical evidence gathered against him and his lover, Michelle Draconis, it's still not enough to keep them behind bars. Each time they are arrested, they use their excessive wealth to post bond and get out of jail, handicapping the case. And the legal hurdles are not enough. Several investigative injustices derail the investigation as the main suspects are able to concoct alibi scripts and even tamper with evidence. With Jennifer still missing, the DA is forced to pursue a challenging no-body homicide case. But even with all these obstacles standing in the way of a conviction, it finally seems like Dulos will pay for his crimes. But when a disastrous turn of events brings the momentum to a screeching halt,
En route to a hospital, a faint pulse was discovered.
Jennifer's family is left asking, where is she? Where's Mommy? And will justice ever be served? When you become a victim of violent crime, justice is not an idea or a concept. Justice gets personal.
New Canaan is in Fairfield County. It's called the Gold Coast of Connecticut. It stretches down towards New York, and that is really an area of quite a bit of wealth. Married, living a good life.
She was tall, beautiful. She had a very generous spirit. She was always just very attentive and making sure that everyone else was taken care of, even before herself.
Jennifer came from a wealthy family. Her father was a very successful bond banker in New York City.
She went to Brown University, got her master's degree at NYU, and dabbled in all kinds of writing, which was her passion, even back in her Brown days, where she actually met Fotis.
Fotis came over here from Greece, graduated from Brown, and then went to Columbia and got a business degree.
Although Jennifer and Fotis ran in the same social circles at Brown, they never dated. After graduation, their lives went off in different directions until one day, 15 years later, fate intervened.
It was so cute how Jennifer's face lit up as she told me the story of her reconnecting with Fotis, and they spent a wonderful evening together where they really just clicked.
They lived in Avon when they first got married, and then as they had children, they ended up moving into this much, much bigger house on Jefferson Crossing in Farmington.
She very much loved her 5 children and was very attentive to each and every one of them. Jennifer wrote a blog called 5 Makes 7, and that's another example. It's the children that truly make the family, and that should tell you how much respect and love she has for children.
Fotis Dulos was a home builder. He had started his own business called the Ford Group.
Large homes, very exquisite, very unique, and he was very involved in his business.
While Jennifer's marriage to Fotis Dulos looks picture perfect from the outside, their coveted life would soon fall apart.
Jennifer moved to New Canaan with the couple's 5 children and filed for divorce.
When Jennifer leaves Dulos, it has everyone asking what was really going on behind closed doors.
May 24th was a Friday. It started like any other day for Jennifer. She took the children to school around 8 o'clock in the morning. The nanny was to pick up the children, bring them back home, and get them up to New York to go to the dentist. The nanny came home and she noticed that the mudroom door was unlocked and there were no paper towels, which she said was strange because she had just bought, I think, a 12-pack the night before. The nanny got the kids ready and then she went off to New York. She was supposed to meet them at the dentist in New York City. She didn't show up. The nanny, she called Jennifer's mother, tried to call some of Jennifer's friends to see if they had heard from her.
I knew something was wrong because Jennifer wouldn't leave her children. She was always on top of everything. She was a strong mom.
As the afternoon wore on, the nanny became increasingly worried that she couldn't reach her. She took the children to the grandmother's apartment in New York City, and finally they decided that they should call the police.
This case, when it first originated, was reported to the New Canaan Police Department as a missing person. The nanny was attempting to locate Jennifer and requested that New Canaan Police Department go and do a well-being check. Upon their arriving at the residence, some of the things that jumped up right away was the fact that her vehicle was missing. There was a substance on the floor that appeared to be blood. That was a huge red flag. What happened here?
It was pretty clear to the investigators that there was a potential for foul play here.
They find the Suburban about a half an hour after she's reported missing, and she's not there. I got a call from a longtime state police source. He said, remember the name Jennifer Dulos, you're going to be hearing about it a lot. And he basically said she disappeared.
Friends and family all say Jennifer is an incredible, deeply loving mother that should never leave her 5 children without warning. Then police find blood in her home and her car is abandoned. It's crystal clear to me that wherever Mom Jennifer is, she did not go willingly.
On Friday night, the police went to see photos to tell him that his wife was missing. He didn't tell him anything about, Jennifer, or if he had any ideas about what had happened to her or anything. He didn't seem concerned.
Being nonchalant when cops tell you blood's found at your estranged wife's house, police find that highly suspicious.
She was missing, blood splatter was found. It rapidly built up the need for more in-depth investigation.
When Jennifer went missing, the first thing I did, I left her a voicemail and I said, I love you and I think about you often and please call me.
Missing persons case, they'll say, you gotta wait a certain number of hours, but it was clear here to the investigators that wasn't the case, and they jumped on this pretty quickly.
Something's not right here.
The thing that they found was her shirt and had her blood all over it.
When you have zip ties, that leads them to believe that someone had been restrained.
I think everyone knew at that point something had really gone wrong here. Anytime something like this happens, it brings any community together.
We're a town of families and mothers and women, and we care about our children, so if it happened to her, it could happen to me. So that's why it resonated so deeply.
We're all hoping and praying that Jennifer will be found, and in my heart, I believe that she will be.
Jennifer Dulos, a loving mother raising 5 children, has disappeared. Her vehicle has been found abandoned, and there's blood discovered inside her home. While the family and community are worried for her safety, her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos, doesn't seem to be concerned at all. Dulos must be scrutinized more closely. But first, crime scene techs are called in to continue searching her home for evidence.
The State Police Crime Squad entered the garage area, and there was was evidence that there had been blood on the floor, blood on the kitchen faucet, and evidence that someone had tried to clean up a crime scene.
And when you see that an effort has been made to possibly clean a scene, causes you to make sure that you examine every square inch, taking samples, retrieving evidence, documenting the scene in its entirety to determine what happened here.
But it was clear at that point that a violent act had occurred in the garage.
The medical examiner viewed some of the photographic evidence that investigators had. In his professional opinion, there was a great deal of blood loss at that scene. And that anyone who was a victim of that blood loss would have been severely injured and in great need of immediate medical attention in order to survive. Hence, the criminal investigation began.
Investigators must now interview family and friends to find out who would actually want to hurt Jennifer.
Jennifer and Fotis looked like your typical New York suburban couple, but in fact, they were going through a very bitter divorce.
They had been in court in Stamford since June of 2017. She originally filed her restraining order. She told the judge that she feared that he was going to harm her, that he had threatened her many times. Doulos, and from the nanny at the time, the judge determined that there was no reason to have a restraining order, that there were no threats. He denied her application.
All she wanted was protection from a violent husband. I can only imagine how terrified she felt when her plea for help was denied.
The judge had given Jennifer parental custody. Fotis Doulos had supervised visits with his 5 children. He was not happy with the judge and with the child custody arrangement. The divorce was draining him financially as it dragged on and on.
Fotis Doulos would like nothing more than to have his wife out of the picture, because then he would have complete custody of the children. He certainly wouldn't have to pay alimony, and his life, frankly, would be a lot easier than going through this very bitter 2-year battle.
After hearing these acrimonious divorce details, police began to believe Doulos has plenty of reasons to want Jennifer to disappear.
Fotis did come to the New Canaan Police Department the day after his wife was missing.
If it was to create an appearance of the concerned spouse, that didn't play and was not accepted by the police officers.
He was very blasé about the whole thing, which I think struck the police as weird.
Fotis Doulos voluntarily gave his phone to investigators.
Right now, Fotis Doulos is the only real POI, person of interest, cops have. To either eliminate him from the suspect list or elevate him to full-blown suspect, they have to find out where he was when Jennifer disappeared.
Many of the smartphones that we have these days are tracking movement of people and they don't even know it.
We call it ping information, where you can triangulate off of different cell towers and determine the location that a person has been to.
His phone had pinged on Albany Avenue in Hartford roughly around 7 p.m. on Friday night. Literally around the same time that the New Canaan police were going into the garage at Jennifer's house.
His phone going there is one thing. In this particular case, the officers needed to show he was with his phone when they went to those locations.
The city of Hartford has basically cameras on almost every intersection, and the police asked Hartford to review their surveillance video.
The video that officers saw revealed that a large vehicle that fit the description of Mr. Doulos' Ford Raptor, stopping at various places in the north end of Hartford along Albany Avenue to unload bags, and not all at one dumpster, but a dumpster here.
The area of Hartford where the garbage bags were discarded is an area that's historically been incidents of crime in that vicinity. So it's a unusual part of town to be in when you're not used to living there.
He was putting this evidence in a place where no one would expect it could be connected to him. What he didn't count on was technology and a little phone in his pocket that was leaving a map of where he was going. "5 days after Jennifer Doulos goes missing,
police uncovered grainy surveillance video showing Fotis Dulos dumping trash bags around Hartford, Connecticut. Investigators need to find out why he's dumping these bags on the night Jennifer goes missing, who is with him, and what is in the bags.
The visual evidence of the two people in the pickup truck dumping trash in Hartford, it appeared as though the driver was a male and the passenger was a female. Investigators were able to determine that Fotis Dulos was dating a woman called Michelle Troconis.
Michelle Troconis was living with him at Jefferson Crossing at the time of the disappearance. She had come here from Argentina. She looked kind of like Jennifer. She was tall, longish hair, skinny. Michelle has a daughter that was about the same age as a couple of the Dulos children, and they traveled quite a bit together.
After looking over the surveillance footage and identifying Michelle Troconis as the woman in Dulos' truck, the Connecticut Police Department asks Dulos and Troconis to come to the station to provide the officers with their DNA samples, and both parties cooperate fully.
So as investigators continued to scour the city of Hartford, going through trash bins, trying to locate any of those garbage bags, they were able to locate and seize some of those bags.
They find a mop, some bloody sponges, Jennifer's bra, paper towels.
They were sent to the forensic laboratory, and the criminals examined them and determined that there was DNA that belonged to possible sources. Fotis Dulos, who was a suspect in this case, Jennifer, who's missing, and Fotis Dulos' girlfriend, Michelle Troconis.
They found a glove. On the inside of this glove, there's DNA of Mr. Dulos. On the outside of this glove, there's DNA and blood of Jennifer.
The big thing that they found was her shirt. They knew that she was wearing that shirt that day and it had her blood all over it. They found zip ties that had her DNA on them.
Not only had something very serious happened here.
If Fotis Dulos' DNA is on the inside of the glove and Jennifer's blood and DNA is on the outside, what does it mean? It means Dulos was wearing the glove when Jennifer was bleeding. CSI also finds DNA from another person, and they cannot eliminate Michelle Troconis as the source. So cops say this means Troconis could be an accomplice. It's heartbreaking, but clear. Mom of 5, Jennifer, did not disappear on her own, and husband Fotis Dulos has her blood on his hands.
Here's a mother of 5 children. She told a lot of people that she was scared of her husband, scared of what he was going to do. There is just something that is so completely unacceptable about the idea that somebody would just disappear off the face of the planet. Like, that is, it's not okay, and it makes a lot of us very emotional and very angry.
It was nerve-wracking, the fact that it happened in your backyard. So it did, it hit home, and my heart went out that night to those children, and it was hard to sleep. And I think there was only one person who had any motive to ever hurt Jennifer.
On June 1st, 2019, both Fotis and Michelle were arrested for tampering with evidence and hindering the prosecution of a case.
Many people believe Fotis Dulos wants Jennifer out of the picture so that he gets full custody of their 5 children. Others insist it's all about the money, but these are all theories. Until Fotis Dulos or Michelle Troconis start talking, we won't know for sure what happened the day Jennifer went missing.
At that point, he had hired Norm Pattis to be his attorney, and Norm was actually at that point angry that he had given his phone to the police. So he had already kind of set the gauntlet down that they were not going to be cooperating anymore. Michelle hired Andy Bowman, who has a little more of a reputation of working to make deals.
In her first interview with the police, she said that on the date of Jennifer's disappearance, they woke up at 6 o'clock or thereabouts in the morning. They then had breakfast and she took her child to school. As she spoke further with officers in that first interview, she created a timeline throughout the day as to where she went. And At one point, she went to a place where she was able to take a selfie with a little robot at a convenience store. She then went to see a friend. All of these set a timeline and an alibi of where she had been during that day. Michelle further told officers forward to Mountain Spring Road and to bring some cleaning supplies, as it had to be cleaned for showing the next day. And he was specific. He needed some Clorox, he needed paper towels, and he needed garbage bags.
After her arrest, Michelle Troconis tells cops that on the day of Jennifer's disappearance, Dulos instructed her to bring supplies to one of his properties so they could clean it for a showing the next day. Supplies that investigators say would eliminate evidence at a blood-soaked crime scene.
After cleaning the house for a while, they then left, drove in the Raptor, all the way up to Hartford. He would stop, he would unload at least one garbage bag into a dumpster.
During Michelle's interview by investigators, they were attempted to have her identify what was discarded by Fotis Dulos, and she was not able to provide any additional information. But the mere fact that she was able to confirm and identify Fotis Dulos and herself in that truck was a very large piece of evidence.
One of the downsides of arresting someone for something short of murder is, of course, if they bond out or are released, you have to be open to the possibility that the defendants are now going to destroy evidence, or they're going to have the ability to talk to people and get them to change their story or get them to support an alibi. That was a real risk here because, in fact, both Fotis and Michelle got bonded out on $500,000 bonds.
This is the second time the legal system lets down Jennifer. First, by refusing to give her a restraining order against husband Fotis Dulos, and now by letting him, the main suspect in her murder, out on bond. It's a major flaw in the legal system that allows individuals clearly guilty of committing a deadly crime to go free. Just because they can muster up thousands of dollars for a bond, other suspects in the same situation cannot afford. It's been over a week since Jennifer Dulos went missing, and her 5 children, who are now living with Jennifer's mother, are without their mommy.
Now they're under investigation for murder.
They were also fitted with ankle bracelets. After interviewing Michelle, the officers obtained a search warrant for property located at Jefferson Crossing, where she and Mr. Dulos lived. During that search, they came across some typewritten statements, which they called the alibi scripts.
Of what Fotis and Michelle did on May 24th to account for their time.
As a result of the discovery of this evidence, they asked Michelle to come back in again, which she did.
She then tells them that Dulos' attorney, who had gone with him to the New Canaan Police Department, had told him, you write down everything that you did on the 24th.
In her original statement, she had said they both woke up at around 6 o'clock or thereafter. That they were together, they had breakfast, and then she took her child to school. As the investigators pressed and pressed, she changed her story. And she said, no, that's not the situation. As a matter of fact, I didn't see Mr. Dulos until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when she was told that she needed to go over to Mountain Spring and clean the house. As she was explaining that, investigators interjected by saying, you know, he killed his wife, and now he's involved you. And she said, I was just cleaning the house. I wasn't cleaning Jennifer.
Even though Michelle Troconis claimed she had no idea what she was cleaning up that day, Dulos did, and now she's a potential accessory to murder. And just when you thought there couldn't be any more to this case, the New Canaan Police Department gets a surprise visit from Dulos' employee. And what a story he has! A story that could finally answer the question, what happened to Jennifer?
The employee told officers that Mr. Doulos had asked to use his Tacoma truck for a few days before Jennifer's disappearance. And when the truck was returned, the employee noticed that it had been completely washed and detailed to an extent much greater than he normally would have expected for it being used just a few days by his boss.
He then tells him Fotis was trying to convince him that he should get rid of the seats.
Something didn't sit right with him, and so he kept those seats. And when his suspicions grew and he realized that the police might need them for an investigation, he provided them.
And they find Jennifer Doulos' blood on the passenger seat.
This is now a third location containing damning evidence against Doulos. But where is Jennifer's body?
On January 7th of 2020, we have a third person arrested for conspiracy to commit murder.
And this was something that really made the officers think, there's got to be more to this story.
Employee, the cops now have even more physical evidence connecting Doulos to Jennifer's disappearance. And Michelle Triconis is still talking. She lets the police know that there's one more person they should question, Kent Mahwini.
Kent Mahwini's an attorney. He started representing the Four Group in some real estate transactions, and that's how he got to know Fotis Doulos.
Originally, Michelle said she saw Mr. Mahwini at Doulos' office on the day in question.
But Kent came in for a voluntary interview, and he admitted that there was no meeting. That, in fact, he did not see Fotis Doulos on that specific day. But investigators had electronic cell phone records to confirm that. He spoke with Fotis Doulos.
When pressed further, he said he had a bad memory about it because he had recently fallen down and suffered a concussion. And this was something that really made the officers think, there's got to be more to this story. On August 7th of 2019, police were contacted by two members of a hunting club who stated that earlier in May, they had been walking around when they came across something that seemed rather strange to them.
They come across what, for all intents and purposes, looks like a grave.
Police investigated further, and they discovered that Mr. Mahwini had been one of the founders of this club.
Shortly before Jennifer Doulos went missing, he had actually reached out to the club and asked for access to the area of property that the club owned, and was ultimately told where the key was hidden so that he could unlock the chain that was across a road there.
Cell phone tower search warrant results revealed that his phone had been used multiple times at that location. Investigators descended upon the club property to do a very thorough search, but after that thorough search, they found nothing.
Someone came back and filled that grave.
It's not clear whether that was going to be the final resting place for Jennifer, but it did appear that there was some suspicious activity associated with Kent Mahwini.
Michelle Triconis knows she's in trouble, and bit by bit, she dribbles more information to police in the hopes she can avoid jail time.
In her third interview, Michelle maintained that she'd been summoned to the Mountain Springs address on the date of Jennifer's disappearance to help clean the place for a showing the next day.
She finds him cleaning the inside of the red truck. When she asks him what he's doing, he says he's cleaning up a coffee spill.
He handed her. Michelle stated that she and Mr. Doulos drove to a car wash, and the car was washed and extensively detailed. Video surveillance at that car wash revealed that the red Tacoma showed up being operated by Mr. Doulos. They now had the vehicle that was involved in either carrying out her murder or transporting her body. On September 4th, 2019, Michelle Triconis and Fotis Doulos were arrested again, this time for tampering with evidence.
After these second arrests, they were again both bonded out on $500,000 bonds.
It's true. Police have not found a body, and they have not charged Doulos or Triconis with murder. But there is still evidence that Dulos severely injured Jennifer and that Troconis helped cover it up. They should not be let out on bond. The legal system's failing Jennifer and her 5 children again. The only way to move this no-body case forward is to bring in a forensic pathologist to determine what really happened to Jennifer Dulos.
One of the challenges in a no-body murder case is having to prove that someone is not just missing, but they are actually dead. In this case, the forensic pathologist was able to review all of the evidence, including the amount of blood loss that was exhibited inside the house, but he also based it on evidence of what Fotis and Michelle were doing and the DNA presence in the house.
He felt that this crime of violence was as a result of blunt trauma or, in fact, the use of a sharp implement, such as a knife. And so, unfortunately, Jennifer Dulos was deceased.
I think everyone knew at that point something had really gone wrong here and that she was no longer alive.
You know, it's just a tragedy.
She was a mom who was doing her very, very best to protect her children. And at the risk of protecting them, she sacrificed herself.
It is now so clear that Jennifer was murdered by husband Fotis Dulos. What heartbreak Jennifer's family, her mom, and her 5 children must have suffered when they got the news. But this investigation is far from over. While police know Jennifer is no longer alive, they still need to make an arrest for murder.
Police don't have a body, but they were able to show through the various videos that the suspects were seen
Of Jennifer's blood on the seat of this red truck.
There was evidence that they had taken this Tacoma to a car wash at the most incriminating time. They had a mixture of Jennifer's blood and Mr. Dulos' DNA in Jennifer's house. All of that added together. Investigators now have enough evidence to present a warrant to a judge and seek the arrest of Fotis Dulos for murder and Michelle Troconis for conspiracy to commit murder.
Months after Jennifer Dulos disappeared, she's officially declared dead. Cops issue a warrant for the arrest of estranged husband Fotis Dulos and Michelle Troconis. As prosecutors prep for a very tricky murder trial, they got their work cut out for them because there's no body.
On January 7th of 2020, we have the third and final arrest for both Fotis and Michelle. Fotis was arrested for felony murder, and kidnapping. Michelle was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. And now we have a third person arrested who is Fotis's civil attorney, Kent Mahwini, who was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder.
Mahwini outright lied to police about contact with his buddy Dulos the very day Jennifer disappeared. And just days before, Mahwini's cell phone pinged at the site where a suspicious grave had been dug. This circumstantial evidence gives police enough to arrest Mahwini for conspiracy to commit murder.
Fotis's bail was $6.5 million, and ultimately he's placed on what's known as house arrest.
The prosecution continues to build a case against husband Fotis Dulos, including developing a theory of what exactly happened in the days leading up to Jennifer's bloody death.
Last time that Fotis saw his children was May 22nd, 2 nights before Jennifer disappeared.
Fotis came over to Jennifer's house to pick up the children, but rather than have the children come down to meet him, he drove all the way up to the house.
Jennifer offered to allow them to all sit in the backyard and eat dinner, and that was the first time Fotis had ever been past the beginning of the driveway on Wells Lane.
The prosecution team believes that, in fact, what Fotis was doing was basically doing a surveillance of the house, because don't forget, Fotis never lived in that house in New Canaan. And then 2 days later, around 8 on the morning of May 24th, he surprised her and attacked her when she came back.
this was a case that had a lot of actual evidence that really supported the fact that a murder had taken place. And putting that all together, it was probably the strongest no-body case that I've ever seen. On January 28th, an emergency hearing was scheduled at the request of the bondsman securing Mr. Doulis's bond.
They began to have a belief that they were going to be out $6.5 million if Fotis were to do something such as escape.
The media had set up outside the courthouse, but there was no sign of Doulos, and people were starting to wonder what was going on.
Fotis had to wear this GPS ankle monitoring. It's discovered that this ankle monitoring is still pinging in Farmington, Connecticut, which is over 2 hours away from the courthouse.
Based upon that, law enforcement convened upon the home, and they discovered him unresponsive in his garage. Investigators believe that he was attempting to take his life utilizing carbon monoxide poisoning due to the fact that the car was running and there was a hose that had been attached to the exhaust.
Fotis Doulis has died by his own hand.
En route to a hospital, a faint pulse was discovered, and subsequently he was evac'd by helicopter to a facility in Brooklyn, New York.
Fotis ultimately died at around 5:30 the afternoon of January 29th, 2020. After Fotis committed suicide, the case ended because we don't charge people who are deceased. The case goes away and they don't end up with any conviction on their record.
When you're dead, you're dead. And the courts don't prosecute the dead, no matter how guilty they are. Prosecutors are, however, still pursuing charges against Doulos' co-conspirators, Troconis and Mahwini.
Up to this point, Mr. Troconis was cooperating and giving statements to the police. However, if Michelle Troconis and Kent Mahwini know where Jennifer Doulos is, what happened to her, this is the time to come forward, because that will be viewed by everyone as the ultimate example of cooperation.
Michelle Troconis released a statement to the press saying that although she now knows she should not have trusted Doulos, she has no idea where Jennifer is or what happened to her. Kent Mahwini continues to remain silent regarding any involvement he may have had in the murder of Jennifer Doulos.
I think we're called by the suicide of Fotis Doulos. There may be others who have knowledge. I think it's clear that Fotis was the driving force behind this murder. His death means we may never know what happened to her, and to me, that is a grave injustice to Jennifer's family.
Jennifer's death may have been prevented if the system had listened when she first asked for a protective order against husband Fotis Doulos. It is a tragic injustice that she reached out for help and she was denied. The system needs to be better than that, and it is absurd that after Fotis Doulos viciously murdered his wife, he was shown so much leniency and was not only able to reach into his deep pockets to bond out after every single arrest, he was also given preferential treatment and was put under house arrest, where others in his situation would be behind bars. But what angers me the most is that Fotis Doulos will never be held responsible for his crimes or forced to reveal the whereabouts of Jennifer's body. The people that know something, Michelle Troconis and Kent Mahwini, have a responsibility to come forward with whatever they know so Jennifer's family can properly lay her to rest. Until then, her family and those 5 precious children may never feel any sense of closure. And that is the greatest injustice of all. For more information, go to oxygen.com.